This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Wednesday, August 20th, 2025, and we're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I will be joined by Jason Meyer of agmarket.net to discuss the closing markets, and that will be the conversation as we discuss as well the Pro Farmer Crop Tour that's taking place, what they're seeing out in those fields. But first, I am joined by Matt Herman of the Iowa Soybean Association for the latest edition of Between the Pods. Matt's going to fill us in on the upcoming Summer Soy Series from ISA. We'll learn all about that and also get an update on the biofuels industry.
It's time to go between the pods with the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network and the Iowa Soybean Association. For the next year, we will explore the ways Iowa-grown soybeans are making a difference at home and around the world. Now, here's your host of Between the Pods, Mark Magnuson.
Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm joined now for Between the Pods by Matt Herman of the Iowa Soybean Association. Matt, the Summer Soy Series is just around the corner. What can you tell us about the Summer Soy Series? Always a very fun event to look forward to each year.
Hey, good afternoon, Mark, and everybody who's listening. So, Summer Soy Series is an event that is hosted by the Iowa Soybean Association. It's one of our premier events we do each year. And it's one of the main events that we do where we get out across the district, across the states, and get to speak with all of our farmers about the issues that are very current and will be coming down the pipe for soybean farmers. So this year, we're going to hold it August 26th through August 28th. And we're going to be trying to hit all areas of the state to the extent that we can in just a couple days there. We're going to be in Waverly, Holstein, Atlantic, Sigourney, and even we'll be back in Nevada before we wrap it up.
And what is the theme of the Summer Soy Series this year? Is there an overall theme going into it?
Yeah, so generally when we do this event, we're really trying to get farmers educated on the current market dynamics, what they can expect going into the marketing year, what they can be thinking about over this winter as they get ready to think about planning decisions even for next year. I know it's crazy that we're already going to have to start thinking about those types of things. But then we're also taking, obviously, what's the market landscape, but what are the policy drivers too, to the extent that those are really impacting the market, whether those are trade dynamics or biofuels dynamics. We try to weave these things together, but each session will be a little bit different depending on the speaker that's there.
And do I have it right, Matt, as well, that this is a great value opportunity for Iowa soybean growers, no additional cost for growers who are Iowa soybean members?
That's right. We put the agenda together for this, and we try to estimate kind of what the cost is, what the value is. This year, we estimate that based on the speakers, you're going to get a free meal if you show up. It's about $125 value, but as a checkoff paying member of the Iowa Soybean Association, information is available to you at no additional cost beyond the membership that you're already a part of.
And when we think about the Summer Soy Series, an event like this that brings around people from all around the state, of course, it's also a great opportunity then to hear from a lot of different voices around the state. You're not just located in one area. You get a chance to get everyone together in the same room and really hear what everybody's experiencing, don't you?
That's absolutely right. And that's one of my favorite parts actually about this event. So, just kind of if you do a round robin of the state with me here, in Waverly, we're going to have people like Corey Jorgensen, who's the CEO of that brand new Shell Rock soybean processing plant. So, personally, I'm very excited to talk to him because that was one of the first processing plants that got announced in that biofuel boom, if you will, that started around 2020 and 2021. So that plant's up and running, and we'll be really interested to see how they're faring in these current market. We've got Stacy Pellet from John Deere. She's going to be at our series in Atlantic. Dr. Mike Castellano, who some of you may know from Iowa State, he leads up our Iowa Nitrogen Initiative. He'll be at our event in Nevada. And that one I'm actually really excited to share with some of the growers, the work that Iowa Soybean Association, the corn growers, Dr. Mike Castellano, Verbio, and others have been doing in the state around bioenergy and corn stover. As well as in Sigourney, we're going to have Chris Snyder, who's the CEO of Cedar County Co-op. So we're trying to get a nice mixture of folks that are, researchers in ag processing. Chris is located on the river, so he's very aware of the export market. And then you've got people like Stacy from the equipment side from John Deere. And then overlaying this, the consistent theme throughout all these is many of your listeners will know Scott Shellady from Cow Guide Close on RFD TV. Scott's going to be with us the entire time at every one of these events, helping growers get a real update on market and what's coming at them. And he'll be a great resource if any farmers, kind of want to get that inside question into Scott and pick his brain about what might be coming throughout this fall.
So the Summer Soy Series just around the corner. One more time, Matt, how can our listeners who are Iowa Soybean Association members, how can they get signed up and registered?
Yeah, the easiest way would be to get on Iowa Soybean's website, and you'll find a link under programs at the top, and you'll be able to register for Summer Soy Series. You can also just, if you get on your Google search and type in Iowa Soybean Summer Soy Series, it'll pop up right to the top, and you'll be able to register for any one of the 5 events that's happening across the state.
Well, Matt, thanks so much for telling us about the Summer Soy Series. Of course, we're really looking forward to that. But here on Between the Pods, when we have you on as a guest, of course, we've got to talk a little bit of biofuels. So I wanted to ask you about RVOs, where we stand with that right now. Has the comment period fully wrapped up?
Yeah, so for your listeners who aren't into all the lingo, the RVO, or the Renewable Volume Obligation, that's the rule that EPA puts out every so often that sets volumes for the federal biofuel program, which is easily the most important biofuel program for demand for both corn and soybeans. That comment period did wrap up August 8th, and we're expecting an on-time final rule from the Trump administration here in October. Last administration, their rules came out on time, so we have no doubt that they'll come out on time again this time. I'd say the big thing for the growers and for the market to be aware of and watch out for is this EPA, the Trump administration EPA, delivered us a solid RVO. The record high volumes. You probably saw soybean oil prices reacted immediately after that. But they also introduced a novel mechanism, which is going to discount, or is proposing to discount, the incentive for both foreign fuel and foreign feedstock coming into this program. So think about, used cooking oil from China or beef tallow from Brazil. Under the proposal, that feedstock and fuel would no longer get full credit. It would only be eligible for 50% credit. And so, soybean farmers, their partners like the processors, we were out there lobbying really hard in the run-up to get this put into this final rule. So that you'll see that reflected in our comments. So we're all going to be kind of waiting with bated breath here until October to see where the administration falls, if they keep this proposal, if they dial it back a little bit, or if it leaves the proposal altogether.
Another sticking point on the biofuel side that has been gaining a lot of attention and a lot of people talking about it, both politicians and farmers and just people in the community, is the SREs, the small refinery exemptions. Could you give us that quick overview again of what we're talking about when it comes to SREs and why this is an important discussion point?
Yeah, so small refinery exemptions are kind of a nuance of the law. And when it was written, it allowed EPA to waive obligation or waive compliance for refineries that were 75,000 barrels of petroleum a day or less. And when the law was written, there was a number of small refineries that existed, mom and pop refineries, if you will, not owned by, the large multinational oil companies. And so they were able to apply for exemptions and not have to buy RINs or buy biofuels. Now, many of those refineries still exist today, but they're no longer owned by those independents. They are now, part of the majors, if you will. But yet those folks can still apply for those exemptions because it's not done on your aggregate company-wide refining capacity. It's done on a facility by facility basis. So there are several billion gallons of ethanol equivalent gallons, if you will, out there that are kind of hanging over our head. So it's one thing that we really have to watch out for, because we could get this, very nice RVO with big volumes, and that could get passed in October or finalized. But then you could have a situation where these SREs could come in later and essentially destroy that demand that we just got. So it's a big push for us to not only limit the amount of SREs as much as possible, but in the event that the administration does issue SREs. Our minimum ask is that simply that lost volume, the volume that we would lose as agriculture, gets reallocated to those parties who do not receive exemptions. The administration has done that before in the prior term, and we can hope we can get them to do that again if they do make the decision to do SREs. But that's the other big watch out that we all have as an agricultural community.
Matt Herman of the Iowa Soybean Association, always a wealth of information on the biofuel side of the ag industry. Matt, thanks so much for the information here on biofuels, but of course as well, the Summer Soy Series, which we are looking forward to here in August. Matt, thanks so much for the time on Between the Pods, and have a great weekend.
Appreciate it.
Thank you to Matt Herman of the Iowa Soybean Association for joining today's show and today's episode of Between the Pods. It is time now for the closing markets. I will be joined by Jason Meyer of agmarket.net. But first, a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Joined today by Jason Meyer of agmarket.net for our closing markets. And Jason, what did we see take place in the trade in the grains?
The grain trade today, Mark, was pretty darn quiet. We traded both sides of unchanged today, and it was kind of felt like we were directionless. There's really no major fundamental news to trade off of right now. The big thing that the market is watching is the Pro Farmer Tour. They're in Illinois, in Iowa today, and so far we've heard yields that are a little bit better than last year. So it's going to be interesting to see what the final results are on the Pro Farmer Tour. And I think those are going to be released on Friday at 1:30.
And at least so far on the tour, Jason, I know they aren't completely done yet, but it does sound like those reports are kind of seeing some similar things to what USDA was seeing in terms of that high yield number. And in order for the markets to react another way, it would have had to look a lot worse than they've seen right now, wouldn't it have?
Yes, I think if the pro farmer numbers were coming in significantly lower than the last year or last 3 to 5 years, I think that would give a lot of energy to the marketplace. About the only disappointment from a production side is maybe Indiana. They had some pod counts on beans that were a little bit lower, but you step back and look at all the negative news we had, especially in the corn market last Tuesday on the report. The market has not been able to breach those report day lows on corn, and what's the market looking at now? So I think that's what everybody's trying to figure out. But the market seems like it's well supported here. The market knows that the crop's not finished yet. Starting to hear a lot of disease pressure out there, some SDS in soybeans and rust and tar spot in corn. So maybe the crop gets a little bit smaller, and the Pro Farmer Tour is seeing some disease issues out there, but they're confirming kind of what the USDA put out there, that yields are indeed large this year.
And it is going to be interesting to see what happens during this stretch run of the growing season, getting to the finish line, because to your point, we had a lot of farmers stop by at our setup at the Iowa State Fair here last week, and they wanted to talk about that disease pressure they were seeing out in their fields. And, you know, we're obviously going to keep an eye on that as we get closer to harvest time. Let's talk about the other side of the ag marketplace now, the livestock complex. How did the cattle and hogs trade today?
Well, cattle, same story, different day. New all-time contract highs in the deferred fats and feeders are all-time record highs. So you hear auction numbers out there in the country are still really strong on cattle. I just don't know what slows this cattle market down. On the hog side, the cash cattle index or cash hog index is a little bit lower, the lowest level it's been since July. We started the hogs down today pretty hard, but with the cattle market rallying, that kind of brought the hog market back, but hogs closed virtually unchanged for the day.
And then, Jason, with what you said about, you know, it's kind of the same story on repeat with the cattle market. It just keeps going up and up and up, and we see these numbers day after day that just kind of make our jaws drop. But then we move on to the next day, and it seems like it happens again. What has that advice been like for what you're telling producers right now? Is it that same advice to just make sure that they have a little bit of protection, knowing that when the market turns the other way, it can happen quickly?
Yeah, it's been really hard for the cattle guys. The true hedgers, they've been making margin calls every day. but you just can't get out of your position. And because if you get out on the hedge, that's when the market could drop. And we've seen the market drop some limit moves in the last 3-4 weeks. So stay disciplined, stay focused, and definitely keep in contact with your banker.
He's Jason Meyer of agmarket.net, my guest here today. Head to agmarket.net for all of the marketing information to get in touch with Jason and the rest of the team. Jason, thanks so much for the time. Always appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Thank you to Jason Meyer of agmarket.net for joining today's show. Let's take a look at the numbers in the marketplace after the close today. You can find that information anytime under the Markets tab of our website at iowaagnet.com. September corn closes up a half cent at $3.80 even. September soybeans up 2 pennies at $10.15. September soybean meal up 4 3/4 at $2.92 even. September soybean oil down 48 cents at $51.20. Chicago wheat up 7 cents at $5.05 1/2. Minneapolis wheat up 2 pennies at $5.70 even. Kansas City hard red wheat up 1 1/4 at $5 3/4 cents. September oats down 5 1/2 at $3.25 1/2. On the Merc, October live cattle up $3.50 at $234.85. September feeder cattle up $5.68 at $358.10. October lean hogs down 20 cents at $89.95. October pork cutout unchanged at $102.23. Class 3 milk down 17 cents at $18.71. That wraps up our closing markets for today and brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you can listen to our morning, midday, and closing market podcast, as well as our daily episodes of our Iowa Ag Matters podcast, wherever you find your favorite podcast, at Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. For Riley Smith, Andy Peterson, and Dustin Huffman, you've been watching Ag Matters PM.